15 black celebrities born male you didn't know about. Try not to gasp. You've seen their faces, you've heard their voices, you've admired their courage, but there's something you didn't know, something the industry quietly buried for decades. These 15 black women were assigned male at birth, and yet, against rejection, poverty, violence, and a world music that refused to see them, they rose, not despite who they were, because of it. Some lost their families, some lost music, everything, but not one of them lost themselves. Before we begin, if their stories matter to you, subscribe to Memory Lane Black People right now and hit that notification bell. These music names deserve to be remembered. Stay until the end because number 1 will leave you speechless. T.S. Madison. She was told, in every way a person can be told, that she did not belong. She built an empire anyway. Madison Hinton was music, born on October 22, 1977, in Miami, Florida. Assigned male at birth into a conservative music household that had no framework for who she truly was. By her teens, she had embraced her femininity fully, bold, unapologetic, and already learning that the world would require her to fight for every inch of space, music, she occupied. At some point during her youth, she was fired from multiple jobs simply for being transgender. Rather than retreat, she pivoted, entering adult entertainment as a deliberate strategic, music act of self-ownership, building her production company, Raw Dog Entertainment, in 2009. She wasn't performing for anyone else's narrative, she was funding her own. In 2013, music, everything shifted. A Vine clip titled New Weave, 22 inches, went viral overnight, exposing her raw humor, fearless personality, and refusal. Music, to be shamed to an audience of millions. Followers didn't just laugh, they fell in love with her honesty. She had arrived entirely on her own terms. What followed was a decade of cultural accumulation. Music. She became a recurring guest judge and later a main panel judge on RuPaul's Drag Race from season 15 onward. In 2021, she made history as the first black transgender woman to star in and executive produce her own reality series, The T.S. Madison Experience, on WeTV. Not just to appear, to own. Then came Beyoncé. In 2022, Madison's voice was sampled from her viral video, Bitch, I'm Black, in the track Cozy on Beyoncé's landmark album, Renaissance. She and producer Honey Dijon became the first black transgender women to land a top 40 Billboard Hot 100 hit. She later received a Grammy certificate for her contribution to the album's Best Dance/Electronic Music Album win. She also appeared in the films Zola, 2020, Music and Brothers, 2022. Her story is not one of survival, it is one of construction. A woman who took every door that was slammed in her face and built her own house from the wood. Isis King. Some journeys begin in the dark, and the only way forward is to believe in a light you cannot yet see. Isis King was born on October 1, 1985, in Annapolis, Maryland. Assigned male at birth and raised, music, in an environment where her true identity created more conflict than comfort. When she came out as transgender, her family rejected her. With nowhere to turn and no safety net beneath her, she made her way to New York City alone, carrying almost nothing. She found shelter at the Ollie Forney Center, an organization dedicated to homeless LGBTQ music youth in New York. That building became her foundation, the place where she stopped merely surviving and began building a future. It was not glamorous, it was not easy, it was the beginning. In 2008, Isis King made history as the first openly transgender contestant on America's Next Top Model, appearing in Cycle 11. Her presence on national television ignited a conversation, music that millions of American households had never been forced to have before, about identity, dignity, and who deserves music to be seen as beautiful. While some questioned her inclusion, the viewing public largely responded with admiration. Supermodel and show creator Tyra Banks personally supported Isis, helping fund part of her gender-affirming surgery through the Tyra Banks Show, a gesture of compassion music that still resonates today. After ANTM, Isis continued building. She modeled for campaigns promoting diversity and inclusion. She appeared in critically acclaimed productions including Pose, When Music, They See Us, and With Love, each role layering complexity onto a screen image of transgender women that had historically been flat, tragic, or absent altogether. She has spoken openly and consistently in music about identifying as asexual, a detail that speaks to the wholeness of her identity beyond any single label. Her journey, she has made clear, has always been centered on self-discovery rather than conformity to any expectation, LGBTQ or otherwise. Isis King walked off a stage with nothing and walked onto a national television stage, music, within a decade. That arc, from homelessness to history, is not a fairy tale. It is a map drawn by one woman's refusal to believe that her worth was music, determined by anyone else's comfort. Janet Mock. She was told her story was too complicated, too raw, music too much. She put it in a book, the world couldn't put it down. Janet Mock was born on March 10, 1983, in Honolulu, Hawaii. Assigned male at birth with the name Charles Mock. Her early years were marked by financial instability and family disruption across Hawaii and Texas. A childhood defined more by uncertainty than by roots. Yet even then, she knew who she was, a girl living inside a body the world refused to recognize. As a teenager, she began hormone therapy and at 18 years old underwent music, gender-affirming surgery in Thailand, financing it through sex work, a detail she has never hidden because hiding it would mean accepting the shame that was music never rightfully hers. She enrolled at the University of Hawaii, earned her bachelor's degree, and then completed a master's in journalism at New York University. She built a career in media, starting in magazine publishing at People, Music, and Marie Claire, becoming a senior editor. Extraordinary for anyone, almost incomprehensible given where she had started. In 2011, she came out publicly as transgender in Marie Claire, becoming one of the first Black trans women to share her story in mainstream music media. 3 years later, her memoir, Redefining Realness, 2014, Music became a New York Times bestseller, a landmark piece of transgender literature that was praised for its honesty, its beauty, and its refusal to simplify a life into a lesson. Her second book, Music Surpassing Certainty, 2017, explored life after transition, love, ambition, music, and what it means to build an identity when the hardest part is already behind you. In 2018, Time magazine named her one of the 100 most influential music people in the world. That same year, she made history as the first Black transgender woman to write and direct an episode of a major network series, contributing to FX's Pose. In 2019, she signed a historic deal with Netflix, the first openly transgender woman of color to sign with a major studio. She didn't just redefine realness, she redefined possibility. Erin Rose Phillip. She was told the fashion music industry had no place for someone like her. She walked onto its biggest stages anyway. Erin Rose Phillip was born on November 10, 2001, on the island of Antigua. When she was just 3 years old, her family relocated to the Bronx in New York City. Music seeking better medical care after she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, a neurological condition affecting movement and coordination. She grew up in one of America's most challenging urban environments, music, navigating poverty, disability, and a gender identity the world barely had language for. At 14, she came out publicly as transgender on social media, documenting her experience on Tumblr and Twitter with a directness that was neither performance nor plea. She simply told the truth about who she was, and thousands of people, many of whom had never seen anyone like her, responded with recognition and relief. In 2018, the fashion world shifted. Erin Rose Phillip became the first Black, transgender, and physically disabled model ever signed to Elite Model Management, Music, one of the most prestigious modeling agencies in the world. The contract was not a token gesture, it was a cultural statement. The industry that had spent decades defining beauty in the narrowest possible terms, music, was being pushed by a teenager from the Bronx to expand its imagination. Since then, she has walked for Moschino, Music, Kalina Strata, and Marc Jacobs. She has starred in campaigns for Nike, Dove, and Sephora. Music. Her face has appeared on the covers of British Vogue, Paper Magazine, and V Magazine. In 2023, Music. She was featured on the cover of British Vogue's Reframing fashion issue. Music, curated by Edward and Ninful, another milestone in a career built entirely on firsts. She also wrote a memoir, This Kid Music Can Fly. It's about ability, not disability, published when she was just 17 years Music old, a testament to a maturity that her life had required of her long before she was ready. Erin Rose Phillip did not change fashion by fitting its standards. She changed it by making those standards irrelevant. Hari Nef, she arrived Music at the intersection of fashion, art, and identity and refused to choose just one lane. Hari Nef was born on October 21, 1992 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and raised in Newton, Massachusetts, in a Jewish family following her parents' divorce. She describes her childhood as that of a weird, chubby, popular, and artsy Jewish kid, a child drawn to fashion magazines, film, and the gravitational pull of New York City's music, cultural world, even from the suburbs of Boston. She enrolled at Columbia University and graduated in 2015 with a degree in theater. It was during Music those years at Columbia that she began her gender transition, not hiding the process, but building her career simultaneously, Music, with it. She told the New York Times that finding her new voice and her new body gave her acting so much more authenticity. In 2015, she became the first openly transgender woman signed Music to IMG Worldwide, one of the most powerful modeling agencies in the world, home to Gigi Hadid, Gisele Bündchen, Music, and Hailey Bieber. That same year, she debuted at New York Fashion Week walking for Eckhaus Lada and Hood by Air and was Music, cast in the Amazon series Transparent as Giddle, earning a Screen Actors Guild Award nomination, Music, alongside the ensemble. In September 2016, she became the first openly transgender woman on the cover of a major British magazine, appearing on Elle UK. In 2017, she starred in L'Oréal Paris's True Match campaign, the brand's first openly transgender model. Her acting credits have expanded impressively. Assassination Nation, 2018 U, Lifetime/Netflix, Port Authority, The Idol, and most visibly a role as a Barbie in Greta Gerwig's Barbie, Music, 2023. She is also set to portray trans icon Candy Darling, Music, in an upcoming biopic. As a writer, her essays have appeared in the New York Times, Dazed, Vice, and The Guardian, covering gender politics, art, and the complex Music intersections of trans identity with race and womanhood. She is not simply a face in a campaign. She is an architect of a new cultural vocabulary, one that doesn't Music ask permission to exist. Yasmin Finney, she found the world in a smartphone Music screen and then put herself into it. Yasmin Finney was born on August 30th, Music, 2003 in Manchester, England. Assigned male at birth and raised in a working-class household where the concept of transgender identity offered few mirrors and even fewer Music guides. Her childhood was marked by confusion, isolation, and the particular cruelty that children reserve for anyone who doesn't conform. Bullying was not occasional, it was constant. Music, when she came out as transgender in her early teens, she faced rejection even from those closest to her. But instead of disappearing into that rejection, she turned toward creativity. She opened a TikTok account and began sharing her life, raw, funny, honest, and Music, completely herself. Her short videos resonated with millions of people who had felt invisible in exactly the same way she had. By her late teens, she had a global following and an identity built entirely on authenticity. That authenticity caught Music the attention of casting directors. In 2022, she was cast as Elle Argent in Netflix's Music, Heartstopper, the massively popular series based on Alice Oseman's graphic novels about queer teenagers navigating first love and identity in a British secondary school. For the first time in mainstream television, audiences saw a Black transgender girl portrayed not as a cautionary tale, not as a political symbol, but as a fully realized human being, kind, Music, intelligent, romantic, and funny. Her performance earned her a nomination at the 2023 Kids and Family Emmy Awards, making her one of the youngest openly transgender actors to receive such recognition. Off-screen, she has spoken candidly about being banned from dating apps due to her transgender identity, a small but revealing window into the everyday discrimination that persists. Music beneath the celebrations. She does not frame these experiences as tragedies, she frames them as evidence, music, of work still to be done. At just 22 years old, Yasmin Finney is already carrying a generation's worth of representation on her shoulders and doing so with grace, humor, and the quiet power of someone who knows exactly who she is. Angelica Ross, she was thrown out of her home. She taught herself to code. Then she changed two industries. Music. Angelica Ross was born on November 28, 1980 in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Assigned male at birth and raised in a deeply religious household where femininity in a boy was treated as a problem to be music corrected. When she came out as transgender at 17, the correction her family chose was to remove her from their home entirely. She was 17 years old and suddenly without shelter, income, music, or a plan. She served briefly in the U.S. Navy before beginning her gender transition in earnest, determined, music, to rebuild her life from a foundation that kept being pulled away. The world music was not kind to Black transgender women seeking work in the early 2000s music, and she found most doors locked before she reached them. So, she made her own door. She taught herself coding and web design through sheer persistence, eventually founding TransTech Social Enterprises in 2014, a nonprofit providing technology education and employment pathways for LGBTQ+ individuals with particular focus on transgender people, music, facing workplace discrimination. The organization has trained thousands of people, turning the skills that built her survival into a system that builds others. In 2018, she joined the cast of Ryan Murphy's Pose as Candy Ferocity, a ballroom queen whose vivid screen, music, presence, and devastating arc made her one of the series' most emotionally unforgettable characters. Her performance earned widespread critical acclaim and introduced her talent to an audience far beyond the community that already knew her name. She followed that with sharp, layered performances in American Horror Story, 1984, and American Horror Story Double, music featured demonstrating range that had nothing to do with her identity, and music, everything to do with her craft. In 2020, Angelica Ross became the first openly transgender woman to host a presidential town hall in the United Music States, a milestone that placed her at the intersection of activism and democratic life. She did not merely survive the rejection of her youth, she converted it into infrastructure. That is the rarest kind of strength. Laverne Cox, long before the world had a headline for what she represented, she music was simply trying to get a role. Laverne Cox was born on May 29, 1972, music, in Mobile, Alabama, assigned male at birth and raised by a single mother who worked multiple jobs to keep the family moving forward. From childhood, she was bullied mercilessly for her femininity, the kind of sustained cruelty that either breaks a person or forges them into something the world isn't expecting. She found refuge in dance, theater, and storytelling. She studied at the Alabama School of Fine Arts, then at Marymount Manhattan College in New York City, pursuing music, acting in an industry that barely acknowledged her existence. Casting directors, music, turned her away repeatedly. She kept showing up. Her breakthrough came in 2013 with the role of Sophia Bursett in Netflix's Orange is the New Black, a transgender inmate, hairdresser, and mother whose humanity was rendered with such precision and warmth that audiences who had never thought about transgender lives found themselves deeply, personally invested in hers. The role did not just launch a career, it shifted a culture. In 2014, Laverne Cox became the first openly transgender person ever nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in an acting category. That same year, she appeared on the cover of Time magazine beneath the music words "the transgender tipping point," a phrase that acknowledged something seismic had occurred. She later won a Daytime Emmy as executive producer of the documentary Laverne Cox Presents, the T-Word. She became the first transgender music person to have a wax figure at Madame Tussauds. She was the first trans person on the cover of Cosmopolitan Music, South Africa. She has worked with GLAAD, the Human Rights Campaign, and advocacy organizations on multiple continents. Every room she entered knowing others would follow. Music, that awareness of being a door, not just a person, is both the weight and the gift of her particular moment in history. Music, she didn't just act her way into a new era, she opened it. Angelica Ross, she crossed an ocean to find safety. What she found instead was another kind of war, one she eventually won. Angelica Ross Music was born on March 20th, 1975 in Scarborough, Trinidad and Tobago, assigned male at birth into a world, music, that had no patience for the truth she carried. She was physically abused as a teenager for expressing her femininity in a society that treated difference as transgression. At just 15 years old, she fled, boarding a flight to the United States with nothing but the certainty that she could not survive if she stayed. America was not the sanctuary she had imagined. She arrived to find homelessness, exploitation, and the particular vulnerability of a young Black transgender woman without documentation, community, or resources. She survived through her wits and her will, two possessions that no circumstance could take from her. She eventually, music, found her way to New York City's underground ballroom scene, the elaborate, fiercely creative world of houses, balls, and chosen music family that gave queer and transgender youth of color something the mainstream world withheld: recognition. She joined the House of Sinclair, then the legendary House of Extravaganza, where she became known for runway walks so commanding it seemed to rearrange the air around her. In 2018, Ryan Murphy cast her as Electra Abundance Evangelista in Pose, the FX series about New York's 1980s ballroom culture. The role was tailor-made for someone who had actually lived inside those communities, and Dominique, music, brought to it a regal ferocity balanced by unexpected emotional depth. Electra became one of television's most quoted, most music imitated, and most loved characters across the show's 3 seasons, 2018 music to 2021. Beyond acting, she authored The Transsexual from Tobago, served as a GLAAD ambassador, and became an official advocate for LGBTQ+ rights at the United Nations. She traveled 4,000 miles to survive. She ended up rewriting what it means to reign. Trace Lysette, she did not come to Hollywood seeking approval. She came seeking truth and found it in music, the most unlikely places. Trace Lysette was born on October 14, 1987 in Lexington, Kentucky, and raised music in Dayton, Ohio, assigned male at birth in a working-class family where financial, music, hardship was a daily reality. As a teenager, she excelled music in track and field and dance, finding in physical movement a language her music, words could not yet carry. But beneath those achievements, she was quietly managing the weight of an identity she had not yet found the courage or safety to name. After transitioning in her early 20s, she confronted what many transgender women discover: the entertainment industry's doors were not built with her in mind. Casting directors turned her away, labeling her too complicated or too controversial, euphemisms for an industry not yet prepared to see her as simply an actress. She worked as a stripper in New York City to support herself while pursuing music, acting classes, a pragmatic decision she has spoken about without apology. Dignity she music understood had nothing to do with how you paid your bills in difficult years. Her persistence paid off. In 2014, she was cast as Shay, a transgender yoga, music instructor in Amazon's groundbreaking series Transparent, a role she played through the show's 2019 conclusion. Her performance was described by critics as sensitive, music, multidimensional, and disarmingly human, shattering the thin archetypes that had previously defined transgender women on screen. Her greatest cinematic achievement arrived with Monica, 2023, a quiet, devastating film about a transgender woman returning home to care for her dying mother. Monica premiered at the Venice Film Festival, making Trace Lysette the first transgender actress to headline a film in Venice's official competition selection. She received standing ovations. Beyond film, she publicly spoke about experiencing sexual harassment in Hollywood, placing herself at the intersection of the #MeToo movement and music, transgender rights advocacy, a position that required remarkable courage. She did not survive Hollywood, she transformed it. Michaela J. Rodriguez, She prayed to become female at the age of 7. It took the world another 30 years to catch up. Michaela Antonia J. Rodriguez was born on January 7, 1991 in Newark, New Jersey, assigned male at birth with the name Michael Anthony Rodriguez. Jr. Her mother is African American. Her father is of Puerto Rican and African American descent. She grew up in Newark, a city that required toughness, and she found her steel early in music in theater, and in a faith in her own identity that no amount of social pressure could fully extinguish. Her mother enrolled her in the New Jersey Performing Arts Center at age 11, and music. She spent 8 years there developing the craft that would eventually carry her to global recognition. She later studied at Berklee College of Music in Boston before a chance audition pulled her back, music, to New York. In 2011, she was cast as Angel in an off-Broadway revival of Rent, winning the Clive Barnes Award for her performance. Critics who saw it described a performer of rare emotional intelligence, someone who could hold a room with silence as powerfully as with song. She later took a deliberate pause from her career to complete her medical transition, returning with a clarity of purpose that sharpened everything about her work. Smaller television roles followed: Nurse Jackie, The Carrie Diaries, Luke Cage, music until 2017, when Ryan Murphy cast her as Blanca Evangelista in Pose, the FX series about New York's 1980s ballroom community. As Blanca, an HIV-positive housemother fiercely devoted to her chosen family, Rodriguez carried the emotional weight of the entire series, 3 seasons, dozens of music, lives, and the dignity of a community that had never before seen itself at the center of a mainstream drama. In 2021, she became the first transgender woman nominated for a Primetime Music Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series. On January 9, 2022, 2 days after her 31st birthday, she won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Drama Series, becoming the first openly transgender performer to win the award in history. Some prayers take time, but they do get answered. India Moore, at 14 they had nothing. By 24, music the entire world was watching. India Adriana Moore was born on January 17, 1995 in the Bronx, New York, assigned male at birth into a family of Haitian, Puerto Rican, and Dominican ancestry. They were raised as a Jehovah's Witness, music, in a household that responded to their gender identity not with curiosity or support, but with punishment and rejection. At 14, India left. They entered New York City's foster care system, moving through all 5 boroughs, surviving a period they have since described with unflinching honesty, one that included experiences of sex trafficking, drug addiction, homelessness, music, and attempted suicide. These are not background details, they are the architecture of a survival that refused to become a statistic. At 15, they began modeling, earning music, work with Dior and Gucci despite an industry that treated them as a risk, music rather than an asset. They built credibility shoot by shoot, season by season, in a world that music was slowly realizing it had been missing something essential. In 2017, they auditioned for Pose and were cast as Angel Evangelista, music, a transgender sex worker in 1980s New York who finds love, community, and herself across 3 seasons of one of television's most celebrated drama series. The show featured the largest cast of transgender actors as series music regulars in scripted television history. In May 2019, India Moore became the first transgender person to be featured on the cover of Elle magazine's US edition, a publication that had existed for over 80 years without once putting a trans person on its front cover. That same year, Time named them one of the 100 most influential people in the world. They also appeared in Escape Room, Tournament of Champions, 2021, and voiced a non-binary character in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. They use they/them pronouns and identify as transgender and non-binary, a distinction they have spoken about carefully and publicly because the language we use to describe each other matters. At 14, music, India Moore slept in shelters. At 24, their face was on the cover of a magazine read by millions. That distance, measured not in years, music, but in sheer human will, is extraordinary. Jackie Shane, before the world had the language to describe her, Jackie Shane was already living the truth. Born on May 15, 1940 in Nashville, Tennessee, Jackie grew music up black and different in the Jim Crow South, a combination that invited danger from two directions at once. But even as a child, she dressed in feminine clothing, grew her hair long, and moved music through the world as the woman she knew herself to be. Her aunt and grandmother accepted her. The rest of music, the world, took longer. By the late 1950s, Nashville stages offered her too little room and too much music hostility. She traveled north, eventually landing in Toronto, Canada, a city that gave her something America at the time could not, a chance to perform without apology. In the early 1960s, she became the reigning queen of Toronto's R&B club scene, fronting bands with a stage presence that music blended the raw fire of James Brown with the heartbreaking grace of Billie Holiday. In 1963, her cover of William Bell's Any Other Way Music hit number 2 on the Choom Singles Chart in Toronto and became a modest national hit across Canada. Audiences packed venues to see her. Many knew she was different. Jackie never denied it and never explained it either. Music. She simply performed with a confidence that left no room for anyone else's doubt. Music. She turned down an appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1965 because the booking required her to present as male. Music. She refused. Fame on someone else's terms was not fame worth having. By 1971, she left music, public life to care for her ailing mother, disappearing so completely that rumors of her death circulated for decades. Music. The truth was quieter. She had simply chosen peace over performance. In 2017, the Numero Group released Any Other Way, the complete Music Jackie Shane, a Grammy-nominated anthology that introduced her voice to a new generation. She gave rare interviews by phone, her words still precise and proud. On February 21, 2019, Music Jackie Shane died peacefully in Nashville. She was 78 years old. She never asked for validation. She simply lived music, and in doing so became one of the most courageous figures in music history. Some people are so far ahead of their time that the world spends decades catching up to them. Jackie Shane was one of those people. Lena Bloom clears throat. She was born between two worlds and built her own. Lena Bloom was born on April 25, 1990 in Chicago, Illinois, assigned male. Music. At birth to an African-American father named Aaron Davis Jr. and a Filipino mother who was later deported when Lena was still an infant. She was raised by her father and grandmother, a grandmother who owned a dance studio, an aunt who danced, and a cousin who danced, meaning music, that movement, rhythm, and performance were in the air she breathed from the very beginning. From a young age, she knew she was a woman. Her father supported her. That singular act of parental acceptance, so rare in the stories of transgender women of color, did not make the world easier, but it gave her a foundation that held. She built her career the slow, unspectacular way, booking by booking, campaign by campaign in an industry, music, that had never built a door for someone like her, which meant she had to locate windows. In October 2017, she became the first openly transgender woman of color to appear in Vogue India, a landmark moment for South Asian fashion media and for Black transgender visibility simultaneously. In 2019, she made her feature film acting debut in Port Authority, a quiet love story that premiered at the Cannes Film Festival's Uncertain Regard section. With that premiere, she became the first transgender woman of color to play a leading role in a film competing at Cannes in the festival's 72-year history. Then came the cover that stunned America. In July 2021, Lena Bloom appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated Music swimsuit issue, the first openly transgender woman of color ever featured on its cover. For a magazine that had spent music decades defining the American beauty ideal in the most exclusive terms possible, the image was a quiet revolution. She remains one of very few Black transgender women signed to a major talent agency, a structural barrier she has spoken about directly, arguing not just for more faces, but for more representation behind the camera as well. She did not fit the world's categories. She made the world build new one. 15 women. 15 journeys that began in silence and ended on stages the world never expected them to reach. Some paid a price no one should ever have to pay just for being honest about who they are. Others turned that price into purpose. Music, building legacies that now open doors for the generation coming behind them. Here is the question worth sitting with. Does our society truly celebrate authenticity music, or do we only applaud it once it has already proven itself through suffering? Drop your answer in the comments. We read everyone. And if their stories moved you, like this video, music, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Memory Lane Black People, because at this channel, no music story worth telling gets left behind.